Dr. Omalu, I really appreciate you joining me today. It's been a pleasure. I've been doing so much research on you and just understanding the work that you do. I actually caught I watched your speech that you did at Oxford last year, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, I loved it, man. I actually watched it about 3 times, and just you dropped so many gems in it that I had to make sure I had a notepad and paper to make sure that I caught everything, just because of your heartfelt message. And I in the speech you said that you weren't looking at your notes, and you just really started to go off of what you really felt that we needed to hear, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah. Yeah, that speech, it was the Oxford, the hall was full.
Yeah.
And they were even shocked. They said that typically they were not that full. So I looked up, I wanted to read. I started becoming nervous. And I'm like, what? I'll speak from my heart.
I love it. I
So I
love it.
did just that. I dropped the prepared speech and just spoke from my heart. And
You did an amazing job.
yeah, thank you.
No problem. Well, I just wanted to get on with you this morning. So my name is Rashawn Miller. I'm the founder and executive director of Eustressin Inc., which is a nonprofit that I started to raise mental health awareness in Black and Brown communities. I
Yeah.
really got into it because of I myself was diagnosed with bipolar disorder back in 2006, and I attempted suicide 3 times. The first 2 times I attempt to overdose on pills, and then the last time I put a gun in my head and pulled the trigger, and it jammed on me. So that's what really got me into the field. But then also understanding that there are not a lot of people in the field that look like me and you. So
Yeah.
especially as men. So I really wanted to. So I do a series called Why You Stressing, and what I do is interview individuals just to. A lot of times people think that we're immune to certain things. That's because you may be a doctor or you certain professions, and that mental health doesn't really affect you. So I wanted to interview people just so that they can tell their side of the story about the different stressors that come with their particular job. But then also with you, I wanted you to just share about what just your research and then your work when it comes down to concussions, and combining it with, what you think it plays into the mental health role as well.
Yeah.
But I wanted to start off with just some basic questions that I ask everyone. As
Yeah.
far as, for
Could
one.
you give me a minute, please? Let
Oh,
me
sure.
grab my handkerchief, okay?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, I'm back. My handkerchief.
Yeah, no problem,
Sometimes
no problem.
I sweat.
Oh,
Okay.
so I wanted to start off with just introduce yourself and let everybody know what you do.
Well, my name is Bennett Omalu. I'm a forensic pathologist and a neuropathologist. I'm also an anatomic pathologist, clinical pathologist. I'm an epidemiologist. I'm a clinical professor at the University of California, Davis.
Mhm.
And 2 years ago, I founded my own company, a medical legal consulting company, because I turned 50. Like everyone else, I think I was beginning to suffer midlife crisis.
Mm.
So I wanted something else challenging to stimulate me.
Hey, makes sense.
So
Sense.
I started a company, and I'm glad I did that because it challenged me.
Hmm.
And in the 2 years, I think the company is successful. I've grown it down into a multi-million-dollar company,
Hmm.
and I have about 9 people working for me now,
Okay.
time and part time. So that is stimulating enough. I still mentor young Black youth.
Hmm.
I wanna become more active in that. Even I was thinking about reaching out to Barack Obama's My Brother's Keeper.
Keeper? Yeah.
Um, so what I'm doing now in life, honestly, is to enhance the humanity of other people. I established a foundation this year, Bennett Omalu Foundation, and we are focused on self-empowerment through education.
Okay.
And also through helping individuals start up some type of business.
Okay. All right.
Just to empower people to be who they were born to be. Especially people that look like you and I.
Right.
Society has not been fair to us.
Right.
But we shall not use that as an excuse.
Agree.
Well, we need to recognize that.
Right.
We need to work 2 or 3 times harder than the average American, just because of the color of our skin. I think it will get better, but we still have a long way to go.
We do. And, I mean, we also have to acknowledge that we've come a long way as well.
Sorry?
I said we also have to acknowledge that we've come a long way as well.
Yeah. In fact, I've read books. I've read, I didn't grow up in America, so I wanted to educate myself of the African American experience. And honestly, what I read, if I had not reminded myself, I would have become very angry and hateful. Honestly. I didn't know it was that bad.
Yeah.
People
it's very
talk
bad.
about the Holocaust, which was evil. But the Holocaust was from in the late 30s to 45, less than 10 years. But what the Jews suffered in less than 10 years, the African Americans suffered in over 2 centuries.
Yeah.
And yet, the African American person still stands tall in America, in spite of our problems. So I deeply, utterly, completely respect the African Americans. I mean, I'm filled with so much admiration for what the African Americans have done. For their journey. And in spite of all they've been through, they are still standing. It's something to be celebrated, honestly.
It is.
It's something to be celebrated. But again, the American narrative wants to blame the African American, absolving themselves of every responsibility. That is not true. That is not true. So I am where I am today because of the African American experience. And I don't know what word to use. I bow to them. I bow to them. I celebrate them. And I console them. Do not be afraid. It will be okay. Change has come. Change is coming. Come.
Agree. Completely agree. I appreciate you as a Black man that's that doesn't have a lot of ties to Africa, but I would love to know about my ties. I really appreciate what you're saying, about the African American people, because to some people, when you talk to, there is a disconnect, but a lot of times they don't realize the struggle that people that look like me and you go through on a daily basis here in this country.
Yeah. Even you look at my story. I was at an interview 2 months ago, and the person who was interviewing me, a white male, and he said to me, Dr. Omalu, do you think your race has been a problem to you? I looked up, I said, what do you mean? And he said to me, you know, you've done great work. Your work was very disruptive. And you stood by it, you were a man of courage. Now, do you think you were rejected, condemned, ridiculed because you were a Black person? I responded, I said to him, well, what do you think?
Right.
Why are you asking me what
you know the answer?
And he responded, he was very sincere, yes, I think your race has been your problem. And Dr. Omalu, don't let that put you down. Keep on doing what you're doing. So it even continues till today.
Yeah.
There's this culture of majority white America. There's this tendency to criminalize the Black person, to derogate the Black person, and to diminish the Black person. No matter what you do, they will always come from an angle, rather than helping to elevate you, to uplift you. You know, and it feeds into that historical narrative of white supremacy.
Right, agreed.
Which many of my brothers and sisters who happen to be white may not be aware of. Okay, but with great African Americans like Barack Obama, Will Smith, so people like that, like in a relay race, would do what they can to uplift the image
right.
of the Black person and to permeate the depths of everyone's consciousness. Sometimes these are very subconscious mentalities that people are not even aware.
Agreed.
So we still have a long way to go, but we keep on doing what we do. We as Blacks, we need to listen to our grandparents, our parents. We need to go back to what it used to be in the 50s, 60s, where Black people were cohesive.
Yes.
There were cohesive Black communities, neighborhoods, Black families. We were proud of who we were. I think we need to go back to that. There is nothing wrong with acknowledging your Blackness. There is nothing wrong in going to an airport, you look around, you need a drink, and you see a Black business. There is nothing wrong with walking into the Black business to support.
Right, agreed.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Right, nothing at all.
So such little things, one person at a time, collectively, will help us become who we were born to be. That is my narrative. You know, I look at great people. You look at every human endeavor, every industry. A good example I use is basketball. There comes a time when a great person comes into an industry and takes it to a level that it had never known. Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods for golf. Okay.
Dr. Omalu.
No.
Look, we have to acknowledge it.
So,
we have changed the game.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like I gave a commencement speech last year, and I said, look, if you look at every industry, entertainment, music, sports, you will see how Black people have added new dimensions
Mm.
to the games, to the industry.
Mhm.
But that there were two industries that Black people have not been allowed or given the platform to make their presence known: science
Mm.
and business,
Mm.
science and finance.
Right, right.
That if a creative Black person comes into science and creates and discovers new things, what is wrong with that? Everybody benefits.
Right, right.
I did not go into academics, meaning I did not become a professor in a school to teach, to do research primarily. Because when I finished my fellowship, I was at the University of Pittsburgh. I was observing the environment. I went to some research programs, some professors, to request that I be allowed to join their research. Everybody turned me down.
Mm.
And I was in my 20s then, late 20s. I discovered that Bennett, late 20s, early 30s, that you're less likely to be given a platform in academia to be the person you were born to be.
Mm.
It's going to be an uphill task.
Right,
You're
right, right.
proving and proving and proving yourself. Is this what you want to do? Waste your life? Don't do that. Walk away. Rather, you can do research by yourself to the
Mm.
best of your ability, to the best of your capacity. And if you notice, when I started doing work on CTE, I was spending my own money.
Right, 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 right.
I was doing some of the research in my apartment. That was the reason why. And
Right.
even when I discovered whatever I discovered, presented it, I expected the university to invite me in. Say,
Mm-hmm.
we've heard of the work you're doing. Come, we'll give you some seed money. We'll give you a lab. We'll support you.
Mm-hmm.
None of that happened. Rather, I was abused and kicked
Right,
out, expelled.
right. You were very ostracized. Yeah, like they
How
did
dare
not hear.
you?
Right,
You know, who do you think you are?
right, right, right.
So, but ironically, people may not believe this. What has helped my experience in America, what I call my Calvary, I'm a Christian,
Mm-hmm.
not a Calvary,
Mm-hmm.
Jesus's trip to crucifixion.
Right.
What has helped my Calvary in America was my experience and struggles with depression and low self-esteem.
Mm. I know you mentioned that when you mentioned that in the Oxford speech, and I definitely want to touch on that. When it comes down to the depression and then your low self-esteem, when did you realize that you were depressed?
Okay, I was born during the Civil War. I suffered,
In Nigeria, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So
the
people, yeah.
effects of war.
Mm-hmm.
And the war ended when I was almost 3, 4.
Okay.
I think it ended when I was about, 3, 4 years old. I didn't discover, I knew I wasn't a very happy child. I was an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
What my brothers and people around me did, like going after women, doing things young people do,
Mm-hmm.
wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then people thought I was just shy and quiet. But no, I wasn't shy and quiet. I was struggling with childhood depression.
Right. Right.
As I became a teenager, I had this very low self-esteem. I, I felt so inadequate.
Mm.
I felt so inferior. And it was irrational. That's why it's a disease.
Right. Right. Right.
I
Right.
remember once my sister, my older sister, she's a pediatrician now, said to me, Bennett, oh, why aren't you happy? Look at you. You're a smart kid. You're a good looking kid. What is it? What is your problem?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when it became clear to me as I got older was in medical school.
Okay.
In my early, about 18, 19,
Okay.
that was when I began to notice that, Bennett, something may be wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
You feel very miserable. You're unhappy. My classmates will talk about girls, talk about life. I mean, have fun, enjoy life.
Right.
Sorry, I had. So I wanted to understand what was wrong with me.
Mm.
And I couldn't.
Right.
And in trying to understand what was wrong with me, in trying to intellectualize it, it got worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Answers. I started becoming self-hateful.
Mm-hmm.
I started, in fact, I started becoming self-destructive. But maybe because of my faith.
Mm.
For some reason, I believed that no matter how dark my life could be, there was going to be a tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be tomorrow. There's going to be another day.
Right.
Bennett, this is not the last day. See, like Christ, God promised the Israelites the promised land.
Mm-hmm.
They were in the wilderness for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
But they had that promise through Moses that we shall get to the promised land.
Mm-hmm.
So in my late teens, early 20s, I believed I would get to my promised land.
Mm.
When
What?
be, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
shall get to my promised land. That there will be a day where I will be myself.
I love that. I love that.
So at that point, I realized that, look, Bennett, whatever you're suffering from, whatever you're suffering from, you did not create it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your disease. You did not impose it on yourself. It came from somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And just like it came from somewhere, it's going to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It took a while. Now, then I was in my 20s, 20 something years. It's going to take a long time to go.
Mm-hmm.
So until it goes, be at peace with yourself.
Mm.
Develop an alternative life. Don't deny the disease, but try to walk around the disease.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to be patient with myself.
That's key. That's
I realized that I was fine. So Bennett, you're suffering from a disease. It's not your fault. Okay. You did not create it or cause it. you don't have to understand it because it's not your own disease. You didn't create it. So something you did not create, how are you going to understand it?
Mm-hmm.
Let it burn itself out. But one thing you could do is to live an alternative life that depression would not take from you.
Mm-hmm.
Keep on keeping on.
Right. Right.
Live one day at a time.
Right.
But I had to relearn how to live life.
Right. Right. And that's
I
the
had
key.
to learn how to be happy. Because I simply discovered, Bennett, you don't know how to be happy. I had to learn to be happy. I had to learn to live life, not like someone else, but like myself.
Right.
And that was why I came to America.
Really? Okay.
So America as a land that encouraged you to be yourself. Just to be yourself. The America I saw in magazines, in movies, on TV, then Reagan was the president of the United States. So I said, you know what? I want to go to this promised land. I thought coming to America would be my best opportunity to be myself, overcome depression. Because it was a battle. Depression was denying me of myself.
Right. 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 So I have
Depression
a
was
question for
stealing
you.
my life away from me.
So as you tell this, I can relate to a lot of stuff. So in my late teens, early 20s, that's when I received my diagnosis of bipolar disorder. But similar to you, like you said, I tried to internalize a lot of it and try to figure it out myself. But then luckily my parents were able to intervene with me, and they took me to the psychiatric ward, and that's where I got the help that I actually see. I was able to put a label to it, but then able to see what I needed to learn about it to learn how to be happy and learn how to do the things that I needed to do. But then also we understand that culture plays a large part in the way we view ourselves. So you said that, you know, when you were in Nigeria and then you were never really happy and not being able to enjoy the things that other people did. What role did culture play into the way you viewed yourself while you were there?
Just a minute,
Okay,
please.
okay, okay.
Guys, did somebody calm down? All right, somebody turned off the AC, so I went to turn.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, what was your question?
So I know that culture plays a large part in the way we view mental health, depression, and all of these types of things. How did being in Nigeria, you know, being of Nigerian descent, how did that play a role into the way you viewed yourself before you came to America?
Being in Nigeria was very bad for me. Because Nigeria is one of the most corrupt countries in the world. You know, see this thing Donald Trump is doing now is very dangerous. Donald Trump, by his actions, has been president now for 3 years. Donald Trump is very corrupt. How do I know? The way Donald Trump behaves is how the corrupt African leaders behave. They place themselves above the law. They are very dismissive of institutional standards. So in Nigeria, nobody was held accountable. Every fabric of society was just falling apart, just like it's happening now in America. Look how we have the COVID COVID-19 pandemic was totally mismanaged because the institutional fabrics and architecture of government were not prepared, because the president has been there dismantling every institutional structure. So I saw decadence around me in every aspect of life. And you know, as a Christian, God created me. That is my faith. I believe. The God that created me is a perfect God. God created me to be perfect. So in my life, I must seek perfection. Not be perfect, but in everything I do, I seek perfection to be like God. So in an environment like Nigeria, I couldn't express myself or be the best of myself. So my depression got worse. So coming to America, you could call me a psychological refugee.
You needed to get away for your.
I needed to get away. If I had stayed back in Nigeria, I would have eventually destroyed myself. Okay. So you're right. Culture plays a big role. Now, in the American perspective, culture plays a role in that America is a very competitive society. Right? That is the culture of America.
We're individualistic.
Yes. So the danger there, and if I read Maxwell Gladwell's book, I think, and there was this story, he told about two very smart girls that came from Michigan. Very smart, they were the top graduating students in their high school. One went to, I think, Harvard or MIT to study engineering. One went to some state university in Michigan. The one that went to Harvard, I mean, gee, with the best of the best. She couldn't cope, though she was smarter or as smart as the kid in the state university. And she eventually left engineering. And the girl in the state university, in a less competitive environment, had less stress, became a successful engineer. That is just a microcosm of the American society.
Right.
America is very competitive. And in that competitiveness, people sometimes forget that we are not all the same.
Right.
We have 5 fingers, they are not all the same length. You don't have to be like the other person. You don't have to be driving a nice car like the other person. So the value judgment system in America is driven by competitiveness. So what that does, and many of us who don't realize that, we cannot all be exceptional.
Right.
We cannot all live in a $1 million home. We cannot all fly first class.
Right.
Okay. So if you don't recognize that the fundamentals of life are based on being the best of yourself, you'll have problems. Like I say in some talks I've given, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter who you are. What matters is, are you the best of yourself? If you are a housekeeper, do you give it your very best?
Right.
That after cleaning some person's room or office, that person walks in like, wow, who cleaned the office?
Right.
That is successful. If you are a receptionist and you're being the best of yourself at your work, that the days you're calling sick, people will be wondering, where are you? If people are asked, oh, why are you missing Bennett? You know what, I don't know, there's just something about it. And all the receptionist may be doing is everybody that comes, he looks he or she in the eye and smiles, good morning. elevating the humanity of other people.
Mm.
So it's not about monetary success or accomplishments.
Right.
It's all about being the best of yourself. So that at the end of the day, at the end of your life, you look back, I did the best I could.
Mm-hmm.
And my life now, I've always said, I wish I never met Mike Webster. I wish I did not encounter CTE.
Really?
CTE stole my life away from me.
Mm.
It became a battle about accomplishments in the ways of the world and accomplishments in being the best of myself.
Mm.
The world was dragging me to define me while I was struggling, pushing back to be left alone, to live my life and be me.
Right.
So in doing that, some other doctors across America, I don't know what it was, out of envy or jealousy, whatever it was, started vilifying me, attacking me.
Right.
Okay? So if you make monetary success, accomplishment, success, your primary objective in life, you're going to encounter a hurdle, a bump that could fall. So because my objective was not to be better than anybody, my objective was not to be recognized at the top of the mountain, I was able to handle that.
Mm.
Because guess what? I did not care.
Right.
I did not care. My experience with CTE, I gave a good account of myself. I encountered something, I studied it, I created something out of it to enhance the humanity of every football player and their families, and other athletes, and then the military. That was sufficient for me.
Mm.
That was something for me to celebrate, not because I had accomplished something, no, but because I had given a good account of myself. I had been the best of myself in the circumstances I found myself in. Am I making sense?
No, making a lot of sense. It makes a lot of
So
sense.
that has helped me to be happy.
Love it.
What people say or do, I'm not interested.
Right.
People invite me to come to events to receive this award, receive that. I turn almost 90% down because I don't need it.
Right.
I don't want to be defined by anybody. I just want to be left alone to enjoy the simple things of life.
Right.
Because the simple things of life are what will make you enrich your life, overcome the entanglements of life, including psychological hardships and difficulties.
Yeah.
You know, and what I tell people, if you make your primary objective in life to make a difference in the lives of people around you, to enhance the humanity of people around you, to make sacrificial offerings on a daily basis, you will be okay.
Mm.
You will be okay.
People I love
that your wife, your son, your daughter, your brother, your sister, your neighbor. No matter what happens, like Christ said, turn the other cheek. You have a neighbor who is difficult, who calls you names, who treats you poorly. But lucky you treat him nicely. It's a struggle. But in doing that, you heal yourself. And you heal people around you.
Right. And that's important.
Yeah, yeah. So that has been my experience with depression. Living an alternative life, writing my own life story.
Right.
Knowing depression. I just ignored it.
Yeah.
I said to myself, it's there, Bennett. So what are you gonna do about it? Ignore it. Relearn your life. Now I was a doctor, so I was reading books. I saw psychiatrists. I've seen psychiatrists about 3 times in my life.
Okay.
Either 3 or 4 times, I don't remember. The first one in New York prescribed antidepressants.
Mm-hmm.
I took it for 2 weeks. It was making me too sleepy.
Yeah.
Lack of energy. I'm like,
right.
I told him, look, I can't have this. Let me rely more on psychotherapy.
Right.
Psychotherapy. I had some psychotherapy sessions. The longest I had was about 6 months, every Wednesday afternoon at 1 o'clock.
It's ingrained in your brain.
1 o'clock. And it's a disease people shouldn't be ashamed of.
Right. Agreed.
I'm like, hey, I need on Wednesday at my work. Hey, I have my psychiatrist appointment at 1 o'clock every Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
At the office, everybody knew it. Say, hey, Bennett, people make fun of you. Say, hey, you're seeing a shrink. And yeah, I'm seeing a shrink, so I could be better than you.
Right.
Because I have problems. I acknowledge it. You have problems. You don't acknowledge it.
Right. That is so true, Dr. Omalu, because we feel so ashamed of it, or it's like it's so much stigma and taboo that goes with it. And that's really why I do the work that I do, because I understand when we try to ignore it too long without getting the help, like you said, you acknowledge it, you try to get the help that you needed, and you help yourself. Yes. And then so that you can be better. But a lot of times people just try to internalize it and they self-destruct.
Yeah. I think culturally, we need to redefine our perception and attitudes towards mental health.
Agreed.
Each and every human being has some type of mental abnormality.
Agreed.
There's nobody who is normal.
Right.
There's nobody who is normal. In fact, statistically speaking, being normal is an anomaly.
Right. That's the outlier.
Yeah, nobody can be normal. What you have is people cluster towards an expectation.
Mm-hmm.
But the mistake we make culturally is that central expectation we classify as normal. That is not true.
Mm.
There's a broad variation in every measurable human index. Okay? People, Gaussian distribution, okay? 97% of us clustering towards an expectation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is not normal. That is just what majority of people do.
Right.
So being majority does not mean outliers or people who are away from the expectation are abnormal.
Mm-hmm.
Am I making sense to you?
No, it makes a lot of sense. I completely agree.
A psychological disease or problem. You're not abnormal. You're a human being.
A human being, exactly.
It's not something to be ashamed of. It's something to be proud of, because that is who you are.
Right.
I remember I just told you that what helped me to absorb my American experience was my experience with depression.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So now, guess what? My experience with childhood depression was a good thing.
It was, right. You took lessons from it.
Paradoxically. Because it prepared me for what was to come. Mm-hmm. So I'm grateful I suffered depression.
It makes sense. I completely agree that my same experience. I'm grateful for the things that I've been through, not only because it made me a better person, but it also made me better to serve other people.
Yes, yes. It gives you a broader perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And as you get older, you begin to understand yourself better.
Mm-hmm.
Now, thankfully, medical science has advanced. We have now a broad variety of medications
Mm-hmm.
that can treat and manage all types of psychiatric illnesses. It's very
Mm-hmm.
important. For me, because I was a doctor, I was able to psychologically treat myself. I was reading books. I even read a book about sexuality. I've forgotten what it was. But it was almost a 330-page book,
Mm-hmm.
Human Sexuality. It was published in the 70s because I wanted to understand my sexuality.
Right, right.
I wanted to relearn life, you know. Why would a man like me be attracted to a woman?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What is the purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Because depression, you're not attracted to anybody.
Nobody.
Why do I need to socialize? I'm not kidding. I had to learn all these things. Why do I need to go out and go to a party and interact with people? How do you interact with people?
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn all these things. How do you meet, when you meet somebody, what are you expected to do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you need to look the person in the eye, reach out your hand, shake firmly. And what do you have to do? When do you smile? I'm not kidding. When do you have to smile? When you're walking, should you look people at, where do you look up or do you look down or do you look straight?
Right, right. Right, right.
Because the depression, the depression stole all these things away from me.
Mm.
Now we learn all these things. I would have been this boring man with his shoulders down, just stepping around, walking, looking so dejected.
Right, right.
So we need to celebrate mental illness.
Mm.
It's not something we need to celebrate, honestly speaking.
Right.
Who we are.
Right.
It's who we are. I'm married. I have 2 kids. There's nobody who is normal in my family.
Right.
My wife has her own unique
Challenges and yeah.
because that is who she is.
Mm.
And I need to recognize that and embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter has her own issues. I need to recognize that and celebrate it.
Mm-hmm.
My son, and then most of all me, I have big issues.
Right.
My family is a representation of the bigger society. There is nobody who doesn't have mental problems.
Agreed.
Some are bigger than others. So rather than looking down on it, snubbing it, we need to celebrate.
Yeah.
Embrace people who have mental illnesses. You know, in the 70s, 60s, 70s, we used to have psychiatric hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
We used to have psychiatric hospitals. Because of that stigma, if you notice, in the 90s, 2000s, they got rid of all those.
Right.
We need to go back to that.
Yes. People need places to go to be able to heal.
Yes, we need to go back to that because you have places for Alzheimer's disease. You have cardiovascular centers. You have ambulatory surgical centers.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you have psychiatric centers?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you may not call it psychiatric. Find out some other
Some other term. Right. Right.
Social adaptation centers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where people with mental illnesses, they have a recognized medical center in each community, in each big city. They can go to. And then, just like if you have surgery, there's a rehabilitation center where you could spend 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. We need to have psychiatric rehabilitation centers where you're having an acute attack, you spend 2 weeks. professional care. So I think we need to go back and redesign the medical medical service architecture
Right.
around mental illness, and that is why I go back. We need to celebrate it,
Right.
because that is who we are as human beings. We suffer from mental illnesses, each and every one of us.
Agreed.
So the people we think are normal, like Barack Obama. I mean, that guy is such a. I told my wife once, "Oh, Barack Obama is perfect. That I'm not in his league," and my wife got upset with me. I said, "No, you need to recognize people who are,
Right.
faster than you. There's nothing wrong with that." So even people like Barack Obama has mental problems.
Sometimes, sometimes.
Successful as Will Smith has mental problems. Each and every human being has mental problems, psychological problems, but maybe we shouldn't call them psych problems because it's expected.
It's just life issues.
Like as a human being, you're bound to suffer from the flu infection. There's nothing wrong with that. So as a human being, you're bound to suffer psychological downtimes. Some people's flu infections are more serious than others. Most people, they suffer the flu, they rest for 2-3 days, they become okay. But some people go to the hospital and some people even die. So we need to fundamentally change cultural definitions of brain diseases. Brain disease is not, it's something normal. That is, I use myself as an example. I use myself as an example. I give talks in colleges. People come to me, "Oh my gosh, how did you overcome your depression?" I'm like, I never overcame it.
Thank you.
I never overcame it. I still have some of it.
Right.
But I've created an alternative.
You learn how to work with it.
Huh?
You learn how to work with it.
Yes, I've learned to live with my depression. Years went by, I was less and less aware of it. So I've adapted. I've evolved.
Yeah, you evolved, and you didn't allow it to impact you to the point where you still couldn't succeed.
Yeah, I didn't allow it to define who I am.
Right.
I didn't let it define me.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it didn't. It took time. Don't get me wrong. It took. When I knew my depression was no longer controlling my life, was when the movie was made, Concussion. After the movie, Sony asked me to join the promotion team to promote the movie. And there I was flying around the country meeting people. And I suddenly realized that I didn't feel inadequate anymore. That I had now learned how to accept myself for who I am. Okay. I met big stars. I mean, even people, there are some stars, some of those stars, they're not nice people, some of them.
Right.
I've been called to meet a star. The star looks at me and says, "Oh, okay. Okay, all right." I wouldn't want to shake my hand. Hey, I smile. Right. In fact, there was a very big actor wanted to introduce me to another actor. And the actor just thought, "What? Oh, okay. I know who he is. I don't want to talk to him." Okay. So the person introducing me to the big actor was very embarrassed. I said, "Oh, no. Don't worry about it. There may be something upsetting him." No. That is Bennett. You give everybody, you always justify one of them. I said, "Well, just like you, I mean, there are times you're not in a good mood."
Right.
I said, wow. So when I realized that, look, hey, I could stand anywhere. I'm not self-conscious anymore. So you see, just like I told myself over 20 years prior, that depression, just like it came from nowhere, it's gonna go to
Right.
where it came from.
Right. Right.
Now, I'm aware of it. There are times I have difficulties in life.
Mm.
Okay? And many times people treat me very badly. I notice I may reach out for my bottle of wine. I'm drinking a lot for 2, 3 days. I'm just sad.
Mm-hmm.
Recognize it. I'm like, hey, Bennett, okay, enough, stop. It's not the end of the world. There's a truth. Let it go. Come on.
Yeah.
Enough. Throw that bottle of wine away. Enough. As I catch myself, And like I said, this is what we all need to do. You catch the flu, the depression flu. It's part of life.
Yeah.
It's not meaning anybody who's having some mental challenge. Don't think you're abnormal.
Mm.
Think you're inferior. It's part of life.
Right.
But there are some of us who have diabetes. Okay, people with diabetes don't beat up on themselves. You deal with it. You live with it. So that is my advice. I've lived it. But when I see people who commit suicide, in the darkest times of my life, suicide will cross your mind.
Mm.
But suicide is the easier way out.
Mm.
Suicide is the easier way out. I'm not a coward. I don't want the easier way out.
I will argue against you about that one.
No. The way I managed it. Okay, Bernard, you take this drug now. In another hour, that's it.
Right.
Don't you want to see what tomorrow could look like?
Okay.
Don't you want to think about it? Don't you think tomorrow could be better than today? So you just want to end it today? Don't you think you have what it takes inside you to see what tomorrow could be?
Mm.
And then tomorrow comes. Hey, there's another tomorrow. You didn't kill yourself yesterday. You're here today. Look at it. Look at the sun. And another thing I did, I began to learn to appreciate the simple things of life.
Mm.
Beauty around me.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one day, for the very first time, I looked up at the moon. And I began to see that the moon actually had some shapes on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, how come I never noticed this? I was in my 20s.
Right.
You never bothered to notice. And I began to see that people walking around all look different. Mm-hmm. So I used to people watch a lot. Like then in New York City, I'll go get a bottle of Heineken, sit by, those cafes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The sidewalk.
Yeah.
Just buy a bottle of them, maybe buy a sandwich. I sit there for hours. If they come, do you want some? Maybe get me another bottle of Heineken.
Yeah.
They'll buy something, they'll let you
Right. To stay, right.
I'll watch people, different shapes and sizes. Some on their phone, very upset, yelling and screaming. And that gave me so much healing.
Mm.
People are all different. And even after many weekends of doing that, I may not see somebody who is crying, coming out of the subway, crying. And I'm like, gee, it can't be that bad. Why is she crying?
Mm-hmm.
So I started being positive.
Right.
Why is she crying? Oh, everybody around is happy. Oh, I'll follow him or her until I can't see the person. I'm like, hey, I wonder what is bothering, what is making her cry.
Right.
So there could be another day.
Mm.
And my mind will say to me, Bennett, do you know what tomorrow could be? Tomorrow could be better. So that power of positive thinking.
Mm. Okay.
Now, suicide sometimes as part of a disease, some people are driven when you see you don't have a control over it.
Right,
But
right,
when
right.
you need help, you need pharmacological intervention.
Right.
You know, when you need pharmacology to help you cross the river,
Right.
to help you get above. So we all need that. But the fundamental thing is we need a better cultural attitude and definition and acceptance of
Right.
tool.
And I think it goes back to what you were saying before is it's going to take a community effort, and we got to change the way our whole entire society looks at things, and we pour into those people that may be dealing with severe mental illness.
Yes, yes. And I think we need to redefine the total architecture of providing care and treatment to patients with psychiatric illnesses. We're
And
not doing a good job. A good example, many homeless people. There was a paper published last year about 50-something%, over half of homeless people have suffered traumatic brain injury.
I believe it's more than that.
You know, it could be more. So you see somebody who is homeless. Homelessness is a symptom and sign of traumatic brain injury, just like suicide is.
Mm-hmm.
So such people, where do they go?
Right, right.
Where do they go? We don't have the architecture in place.
The infrastructure is not there.
Yeah, other countries in Europe have done a better job. So like just like people with Alzheimer's disease have Alzheimer's care centers.
Mm-hmm.
So people with psychiatric illnesses, we need to develop psychiatric care centers for them.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Omalu?
Homeless people, you notice many times you don't solve it by giving them money.
No.
You don't solve it by giving them food. No. It's a multifaceted approach. They need care and long-term care, just like my experience with depression. It took me about 20 years to recover.
Mm-hmm.
So long-term care, and I think we can do it. This is the richest country on earth.
Yeah.
We can do it. Just one way you could do it, you see the taxation on, on financial gains is at, I think, 15%.
Mm-hmm.
Why should financial gains be taxed at a much lower level than income? It doesn't make sense to me. And I'm a capitalist.
Right.
Doesn't make sense to me. So why don't we tax, excuse me, Wall Street financial money market transactions? It's a transaction, just like buying something in a market is a transaction.
Mm-hmm.
And so we should tax it, no matter what the rate is. It shouldn't be too high. If these are people who buy and sell money, buy and sell equity,
Mm-hmm.
transaction. So why shouldn't it be taxed? So when you tax this, we will have so much money to provide care to other human beings. To provide care to other human beings. Because you don't know how painful it is until you have a loved one.
Yeah.
A psychiatric illness and doesn't have anywhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
And as a Christian, I believe we are all one family. We are members of one another. What happens to you happens to me.
Right.
If I uplift your humanity, I'm uplifting my humanity. I'm uplifting the humanity of my son or my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we do it? So we need to change our mindset, our value judgment system, because it's gonna get worse.
It is.
World is changing in this day and age of, information technology,
Technology.
and then we now have COVID-19, the little human interaction we have, we're not gonna even further separate ourselves.
Agreed.
Everybody was wearing a mask. I couldn't see the faces of people. If you see how that traumatized me, I couldn't see the faces of people. Psychologically traumatized me. I'm like, what is this? And they're saying it's gonna be the new normal. Some people are gonna need.
People gonna definitely need a lot of help.
So we need to start thinking about it. It's not about partisanship or philosophy or whatever it is. It's just about humanity.
Right. I think for me,
humanity. And I really respect you for what you're doing.
Thank you. And I respect you just because of the fact that you were a disruptor and you really do things to help humanity. And similar to what you were saying, as far as the infrastructure, when it comes down to addressing mental health challenges, that's my ultimate goal. I want to build a facility. I want to build this structure because I actually work in the communities. Because sometimes you can't expect people to go to the facility. You got to meet them where they are. So those are the types of work that I do. I actually I will go sit into my client's home and do therapy in their home with them and all of their family members, because it takes a holistic approach. It takes everybody to be able to address those issues. So similarly, I want to be a disruptor, Dr. Omalu, similarly, just like you.
Don't be afraid.
No, not at all.
In my battles with the NFL, I'm a Christian, so I use that as my reference. When Christ died, you're a Christian, right?
Yes, sir.
When I tell stories about Christ, you understand?
Yeah.
So when Christ died, as the story tells us, he appeared to the apostles. And if you notice, whenever he met the apostles, one statement Christ used most often after his resurrection was, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid.
Not at all.
What is there to fear? The ultimate fear is the fear of death.
Yep.
Yes. So, if I die, and so what? If I die, and so what?
Yeah.
So, why would I live my daily life in fear of death? I'm beyond death. So that emboldens you. You do what is right.
Yes, sir.
But in doing what is right, don't become self-serving. What is right is that thing you do that is enhancing the humanity of another person. Not your own humanity. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense, Dr.
Because sometimes we take it upon ourselves, become self-serving. You're now the arbiter of what is right or wrong.
Right. And then you get completely lost, and then everything is just, and eventually it'll fall apart.
Yeah. So do what you're doing with every boldness. People that don't share your philosophy with you, people that don't support you, bless them, dust your shoes, turn around, and walk away.
I received that.
Okay? Bless them, just like Christ did on the cross.
Right.
But the people who attack you, bless them. Okay, bless them, turn around, and find another way. One person at a time. It will be okay.
Dr. Omalu, I really appreciate everything that you've given me today. And I'm sure you're going to bless so many other people with your words, but even all the work that you already done, but then the words that you've given today. I really appreciate you taking the time, especially on this Saturday morning. I know
Yeah,
you
I'm
got
sorry
spend
for
time with your.
yesterday. I had somebody deleted some files in my
Oh
database.
yeah,
Stored
no
them.
problem. I mean, life
Yeah,
happens. So I mean, we
yeah,
can adjust and pivot. And I definitely enjoyed the conversation with you this
yeah.
morning. I look forward to even connecting even more after this, and would definitely love to learn more from you.
You know, Richard, one thing I do, anything about my personal life that could help someone else, I share it. I'm not ashamed of it. And people have told me, oh, how could you be talking about such personal things? It's really personal.
Right,
Nothing.
right,
We're all human beings. What I'm suffering from, many other people are suffering from, have suffered, and will suffer.
right. Agree. Completely agree. But Daba, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I
Yeah,
really appreciate everything that you've done to me. And then please be safe out here with this COVID-19 stuff,
yeah.
man. Yeah. But no,
I
again, I
have
really
I have a COVID-19 autopsy this morning.
oh really? Wow.
But
I
hey,
was
we wear our things. That is
yeah.
part of my job.
Ah,
Uh,
okay. Well, please take care of yourself and take care of your
yeah,
family. I really appreciate everything.
yeah. Thank you. Bless you.
All
Okay.
right. All right. Bless you. Have a good day.
Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye.